While living in Australia, there were some things that really stood out to me. Some things that Australia just does so right, so differently, or that feels different there. Of course, this is just my personal experience, and everyone might notice different things. But I wanted to share what I observed while living there. Let's start with the thing that everyone notices and everyone thinks is crazy: free things. One thing Australia gets really right is all the free things available for people. Free public toilets or water fountains, especially at beaches, parks, shopping centers, and public spaces. There are also free public barbecues in parks or by the beaches, which I think is just incredible. There are so many free things that in Europe you would have to pay for, and that's incredible. Even museums. Something else that really surprised me was that many museums or art galleries were absolutely free to visit. Like most of the museums I remember visiting were for free. Of course, there are exceptions, but I mean like art galleries and really good museums are for free. While in Estonia, I don't remember a museum I didn't have to pay. So well done, Australia. Another thing that I noticed that Australia does so well is community activities or community feeling. I feel like Australia is very community focused country. People seem to love getting together, whether it's for sports, local events, markets, charity events, helping someone, running clubs, swimming clubs, or community festivals. There are so many things going on which are all community based, and everyone's happy to chip in or help out or anything like that. Of course, not every area is the same, but I definitely felt more of a community atmosphere there than back home. People seem to get more involved, support local events, and help out whenever they can. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the lifestyle, but it felt like there was always something happening and a lot of opportunities to meet people as well. The public transport. I'm not sure if Australians actually know how good their transport is or how friendly and happy their bus drivers are. Also, how well organized buses are at the busiest hours, how good the tap on, tap off system actually is, and how many great transport options you have. Trains, trams, buses, double decker buses, ferries. It's actually unreal. And I had never seen that people line up or queue so nicely on the bus stops, especially on a very busy hours. Living in Sydney, I lived on the one side and had to work on the other side. So I had to commute quite often and at the busiest hours. So most of the time, it seemed like the lines were endless. Like, I mean, the lines went on the other street. You couldn't even see the end, but everyone just lined up so perfectly. And I thought I will never get on that bus, or it takes me an hour to get on a bus. But in reality, every time I got on a bus in the next 10, 15 minutes, yes, sometimes it was longer because, you know, you can't help with the traffic, or you can't help if something happens. That's traffic. It's not always perfect or on time, but can't do anything about that. And also, people were very considerate. They moved their bags, made space, gave up their seats if necessary, or they even at least asked you if you would like to have a seat. And nobody ever tried to block the seats. That's not always the case in Europe. The next thing is respect for all work and workers. Coming from a different culture, I feel like no matter your job title in Australia, everyone gets the same respect. You're not looked down on if you work in a cafe or in retail or like more simple jobs. In many cases, jobs like tradies or hospitality are seen as completely normal and even respected, not like less than other careers. There is no kind of competition who is better, who has a better job title or fancier job title, who has finished what school, how many schools, and so on. People just enjoy what they do and are not ashamed of it. They're not ashamed of their jobs. It definitely felt more relaxed and less like a status comparison there. I feel like what you do or your job title definitely matters more in Europe. Of course, this is just my personal experience and my personal thoughts, and it can depend on the people and the environment and the work environment. But yeah, it definitely feels different. It definitely felt like in Australia, your job and your job title just doesn't matter as much. Next thing I noticed is that you don't need to be rich to enjoy life. One thing that surprised me was how many of my favorite memories were all free: beach days, coastal walks, sunsets, national parks, picnics, watching whales. And I think this might be one of the reasons why people love it so much there and enjoy living there so much, is how much you can do there, how many options you have to be outside, to enjoy life, surfing, going to the beach, just anything. And you don't need luxury to have a good day. Sometimes you just can pay for a bus or a transportation to go enjoy botanical garden in the city or drive to Palm Beach and enjoy your day there. Like, it's one of my favorite places, by the way. But it's easy to do. It doesn't cost a fortune, and you can bring your own lunch if necessary. I think Australia is very lucky how much light they have in a year. I mean, the blue sky and the sunny days, even in winter. And that's probably what makes it nice to even enjoy the simple and small things. Another thing is the positivity. People just seem so much more positive. Not all the time, of course, and not everyone, but in general, people seem more relaxed, more easygoing, and more optimistic, even if they have a hard day at work or at school, at home, wherever. But people still like smile at you. They still treat you with kindness. I noticed it everywhere: at work, in shops, in public transport, and in everyday conversations. People smile more, make small talk, and often seem genuinely interested in how you're actually doing. Back home, people can be a bit more reserved. Well, a lot more reserved. We don't really talk to strangers, we don't start a small talk. And if someone starts chatting with you at the bus stop, you might wonder what they want. It's very, very different. In Australia, it felt much more normal. Being happier is, I think, in Australians' DNA, honestly. And that positivity, you get that too. You are becoming more positive as well. And it really helped make hard days easier and just, yeah, made me feel so much more welcomed and so much more happier in everyday life, really. Next thing is healthcare. Honestly, I've had some terrible experiences with doctors before, and I really hate going to the doctors. I will literally put off making an appointment for days before I actually do it. I just find it so uncomfortable, and because of my past experiences, I just try to avoid it. Until I had to go to the doctors in Australia. And I have to say, I've never ever had such caring, friendly doctors before. They took the time to explain things, they asked me questions, and they actually listened to me. It didn't feel like I was rushed, it felt like they genuinely wanted to help. And it wasn't just from one experience, even my husband was the same. One time, his doctor was concerned that something more serious could be going on and told him to go to the hospital to get more checks done. She even said that she wouldn't feel comfortable sending him home without making sure that everything was okay, even though he tried to refuse going. Of course, everyone's experience is different and no healthcare system is perfect. It never is. No system is perfect. No country is perfect. But the doctors and healthcare workers we met were absolutely incredible. And I really felt that. So, thank you to all Australian healthcare workers. You're doing an amazing job. Next thing I noticed is safety. Safety about everything, really. Whether it was construction sites, workplaces, roadworks, safety always seemed to come first. In many jobs, you can't even start work until you've completed the required safety training and understand all the rules and procedures. It felt like the main priority was making sure that everyone gets home safely at the end of the day. something else that surprised me was the number of traffic controllers who hold the stop and slow sign at roadworks. In Australia, you can see them quite often, even on smaller roadworks and local projects. Back home in Estonia, it's not that common, and I'm actually not sure if I've seen any in years. But there's also so much other safety like things in Australia. There's beach safety with flag systems, always lifeguards on duty, warning signs everywhere if necessary, wildlife safety signs, and I'm sure there's so much more that even doesn't come to my mind at the moment. But to me, it definitely felt like there was a lot put in place for safety, for public, for work, and so much more, at least in my opinion. This one might surprise a lot of people, and I am not sure if I've heard someone else talk about it, but airport workers. I have never ever felt so welcomed to a country. I've traveled back and forth to home and to Australia like a few times actually, and in no any other airport I felt this warmth, this kindness, this helpfulness, and smiling people asking you questions or helping you out. I've always found airports so daunting, like I'm doing something wrong trying to enter and you're being questioned, but never in Australian airport have I felt that. Never. And usually I feel like the airports are the worst part about traveling. But in Australia, it's actually such a nice experience. Like every time I had to go through the immigration, I've been like a little bit scared. Like, I don't know, it just feels daunting. But every time the person who asks me questions, they smile, they're so friendly, and they're the first contact when you come to a country. And they are doing it so amazingly well. So that was all the things that I think Australia does so right. Overall, these are just some of the things that really stood out to me while living in Australia. It really is a country with a very different lifestyle. So yeah, if you've been to Australia, if you've lived in Australia, or if you're local, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So, what do you think Australia does so right? Let me know. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.